What's up, everybody? It's Tianna ADiGE. I am here with Fly. We're here doing this together, actually. No Fly Zone. Um, and we're just basically going to be giving an introduction as to why we chose to do this and how we met, basically. I mean, and if anything else comes about, then we'll just flow with it. So I just let you go ahead and, I mean, if you want to share, like, what the purpose of this podcast is for.
Man, the purpose of the podcast is just to, talk about, the things that we don't never really talk about, like different things that happen in our family, like family dynamic, setting boundaries with your family, different things that we go through and different traumas that we all place on ourselves, and that, we don't, it's like the untold stories in our families. And just to like let those things out and be able to have a safe space for everybody to share, and just, hopefully to bless someone else and help somebody else, with the things that they've dealt with in their life and dealt with their families or whatever. And, with the no fly zone part as well, just to talk to different people who have accomplished amazing things. I think a lot of times we attach our accomplishments to money, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make a lot of money in order to have an accomplishment. I think being a single mother is an accomplishment. Being a single father is an accomplishment, and doing it the right way. And, graduating college and different things that we go through in our life are definitely accomplishments, and we don't have to attach everything to money. And, I'll let you start about how we we met at the jungle, basically.
Yeah. So I'm actually tied into what you're saying, because to me, that was one of the accomplishments that I never thought I would achieve, honestly. It started off with me, I was subbing at the time, and I had been subbing for quite a while. And when I got to Johnson, that's when I was like, okay, do I want to continue subbing, or do I actually want to get a permanent spot, somewhere where I'm working with young people? And the thing about Johnson is that it was an alternative school, and it still is, actually. But both of us ended up there. And I just to get into how I ended up there, like I said, I started subbing, and in the midst of me subbing there, that's when the principal at that time was just like, okay, do you want a permanent, position and all that? And so I was like, I guess, because I wasn't really in the rooms at that time. So I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know the behaviors of the kids. I had never actually heard of or been to an alternative school until I got there. So I didn't know what I was walking into. And to me, it just felt like a regular school. Because of course you got the kids that come there to learn. You got the math teachers, English, all the subjects covered. But with those students in particular, they had a little bit more of a challenge, in staying focused and, their behaviors prior to, whether it be the school that they came from, or whether it be their household, or whatever the case was that caused them to, have that type of behavior issue. That's what this particular school dealt with. And for me to walk into that, it's kind of like I would say it's like me walking into my old neighborhood when I was growing up. I saw a lot of kids, whether they were talking back to their parents, or whether they were just all over the place, about anything, and just easily upset about something. So me going to Johnson was not only an eye opener, but it was an opportunity for me to shed light in a different way to the young people. So I know it had two different grade levels. You had the middle school and the high school, and the ones that I mainly worked with was the middle schoolers. And by me working with the middle schoolers, I felt like I was more in tune with building a relationship with them, as opposed to just telling them what they don't want to hear, or being that person that just kind of, just overlook them for what they're dealing with, as well as helping them academically. So like I said, that kind of helped me in a way and achieve something to not only, have these side conversations with, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you acting this way and all that? And to also help them academically, because that was one of my strengths in school. being an honor student. So I kind of found a way to, incorporate both of them and along with some other things. So that's what kind of led me to Johnson. And I ended up being there for about 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And ended up going on to, working at a different school that I'm at now. So, I mean, that's how I got there. And then I ended up meeting you as one of the teachers because you were the computer teacher
Yes.
when you came.
Multiple things there.
Yeah.
Computer teacher, history teacher, PE teacher, uh, cafeteria staff, everything, man. Cause like
Yeah.
I didn't have no breaks there. Like the first like month, I was like, man, this school it's not as bad as I thought it was because we didn't have that many
Mm-hmm.
kids. But once the kids started rolling in, I was like, man, like the smallest class size I had was like 50. I felt like every day,
Mm-hmm.
because I've never seen that in that manner. That wasn't my first time, teaching at a alternative school. I had just came from an alternative school out in East Tennessee and
Mm-hmm.
relocated back to Nashville, trying to get back to Nashville, get back to, around some of my friends. I graduated from the Tennessee State University, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to come back to Nashville. And, I knew Dr. Braden at that time because, I went to college with her daughter. So I knew her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got on at the school or whatever. And, that school right there and, seeing that dynamic and, it made me feel sorry kind of for the educational system or whatever, and I felt like we was failing the kids for sure. Um, because, coming from Memphis and coming from where I came from, like less than 2% of kids from Memphis City schools are college ready. And I was one of those
Mm-hmm.
kids. People laugh when I tell them that I only saw the library twice in high school, and I only
Mm-hmm.
seen my locker twice in high school. And that was the first day of high school and the last day of high school for the library and that locker. Like I never took books to class. We never really read anything or whatever. And I remember I got to college and they were like, well, you supposed to have read this. And I was like, man, I've never seen that. I don't even know what you're talking about. They were talking about the Scarlet Letter. And I never had read it because, just those requirements, coming from where I came from was just, it really wasn't geared towards education. Everybody was pushing me in the sports direction, which I did the sports thing, but I was more, I've done so much now with education since then. It's mind blowing sometimes when I sit back and think about some of the things, and then I just felt bad for those kids at Johnson, and but I got to meet some really dope people, got to meet you, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's why I feel like that we met, that
Mm-hmm.
relationship that we're still like rocking.
Mm-hmm.
What 3-4 years from since then, and
Yeah.
whatever, and building this relationship, and then like hearing you talk about your struggle and different things like that, and want to talk about the podcast and stuff. I was like, see, this everything
Yeah.
has a purpose.
Yeah, we got quite a bit in common. So I'll just ask you this question. I know you mentioned the accomplishments, but do you feel like you accomplished something working there?
Um, I do not. I do
Okay.
not feel like I accomplished anything working there because for the simple fact, I was very close with a lot of those kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some of them periodically, and I'd be trying to keep up with them, but I feel like there was so much more that could have been done. Do I feel like I made an impact to some of their lives, and they would think about the things that I said or did? Later in life, I do believe
Mm-hmm.
that, but I just feel like, I just wish I could have did more.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you?
I like I said, I mean, it felt like an accomplishment, just to be able to do the whole academic part, but I didn't really get a chance to dive into it like I wanted to because their attention span was so short. And it kind of, I had to realize that, okay, Tianna, you're not really in an actual school setting to where it's like I said, when I was working at other schools, I was able to actually sit with a kid for about maybe 15 or 20 minutes and worked through an assignment with them and they understood it from beginning to end. And sometimes if they struggled, it's like we'll try to take breaks and try to see, okay, what do you understand from this equation or this passage or whatever. And I would have that kind of dialogue. But
Right.
with it being a Johnson, and like I said, working with kids that have the behavior issue is just like a whole flip. Why
Right.
you asking me these questions? Why you this? Why you that? It was like a combat thing. And I was like, I'm not here to be against you. I'm just here to try to help you. And so when I found that I kept getting more, I'll just call it rejection. When I kept finding that I was getting more rejection from the students, then it was kind of like, okay, I would kind of dial back on even trying to help them academically, to where it's like just a small conversation. How's your day going today? I
Right.
mean, at least I would get that kind of response, with them saying, I mean, I'm all right, I'm cool, I'm whatever. And I just go with that. I mean, I wouldn't pry. I wouldn't try to dig at them, because I know that they got a lot going on,
Right.
whether it's on their minds and their situations, like I said, at home or whatever. But I just didn't position myself to try to be that person for them if I didn't have that, qualification to do that. So in a way, I do feel like I accomplished something, but to the full effect of it, not really. Like you said, because there was more that we could have done, but
Right.
we were so short. It was always a lack in something. Short staff, like you said, you felt like you pretty much was doing everything. I was doing everything too.
Right.
Working in the office, working in the classroom. I started off being hired as a teacher's assistant, but
Mhm.
did I remain that? No. There were
Yeah.
sometimes I had to, there were sometimes I had to fill in for the teachers.
Right.
And there were sometimes I was, making copies for other teachers, or either, running through files and stuff like that. I was just all over the place. And did it stress me out? Yes, it stressed me out.
Yes.
So, and that's, so we can get into that. I mean, if we want to, what made me leave
Right.
was that I was being pulled in every direction. I felt like at a certain point, I was just basically um, being used to my extent,
Right.
of being that valuable worker, to where I felt like I was, working for everybody but me.
Exactly.
It's like my purpose there was just slowly but surely, like, okay, I don't even know why I'm here. Am I here just for the paycheck? Pretty much.
Right. Yeah, we
Do I
get
feel like, yeah? So it's just, I kind of question myself. And so I had to make that decision. It's time for me to do something where I feel my passion is as strong as I wanted it to be when I first started.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited. I was getting the classroom and all these different things, and I had all these high hopes, and even at times there, I was like, because lunch was terrible, and so I would buy snacks and bring them snacks and do things like that, and have incentives in my classroom, because I know some of them, had it hard at the house, and
mm-hmm,
the mental toll that it took on me, having
mm-hmm,
to pray before I came in there, and
mm-hmm,
just having to get your mind right before you walk in the building, because that that 8 to 3 there is more
mm-hmm.
like a 48-hour shift and
Yeah,
a day, and
yeah,
being some of the younger people there, we were always looked to do more.
mm-hmm,
We were never given the courtesy of, well, I just don't feel like it today. But
mm-hmm,
everyone else was, because they were older. So we had to take on
yeah.
more responsibilities and more tasks than everyone else. And, you know, some days I would just be tired. And like you said, just working for a paycheck at some point.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Which is sad in some cases, because that's not what we wanted it to come to. But
Right,
in reality, it's like, I mean, what else do you do?
right,
Um, because I mean, where we are now is, to me, it's a better environment. It's a better environment, and it's less stressful, and it taught me a lot of what I was only tolerating and dealing with that
right,
I didn't have to. But it also strengthened me as a person to just be like, you know what, no, I feel like you kind of using me in this area, or either even if I don't say those exact words, it's like yeah, I kind of recognize how this is going, so let me kind of switch it up so that I won't feel like I'm being used in this position that I'm in now. So it's every now and then I kind of find myself, just, you know, feeling like, okay, I'm still there because I'm still, like I said, I'm still working in a school, but yet I can't talk to these kids how I would talk to the kids at the alternative school. Because
Right.
it's like I'm back in the regular setting, even though it kind of sounds strange to say that. I'm back in a regular setting for school. And it's like all you have to do is just tell these kids maybe once or twice to sit down, and they'll do it. Even if you ask them, they'll still do it. And some of them will try you and all that, but overall, it's just like, I kind of feel like I got a little bit more strength than I had before. Even when I first got to Johnson, it was just like okay, I'm kind of feeling myself out with these younger kids
Right.
because you got a little softer side to you.
Right.
And that's what I was most comfortable in. But I knew that I had to, step it up a little bit more if I was going to be working with teens. So that's one thing that I did. But then, like I said, coming out of that, it's like, okay, yeah, you gotta strengthen up too. So that's what I got from it.
Yeah. I guess mine was a little bit different because, after leaving Johnson, I went to private schools. And so
Uh-huh.
I really didn't have to, it wasn't the kids that I had to worry about so much.
Mm-hmm.
It was the staff members, the admin, because now the same way that we looked at those alternative kids, because let's be honest, most of those kids were kids of color.
Mm-hmm.
I was looked at that way at private schools.
Mm-hmm.
So now I was looking like the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Even though with all my education and everything that I've had to deal with now, I was being looked at as just like those kids. And so instead of it being some great thing, I was
Mm-hmm.
looked at as, how we looked at them, like hoodlums or less than.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that. It kind of flipped a little bit. Not saying every experience was the same one, or every experience was like that, but I have seen that
Mm-hmm.
in retrospect. And I had to remember. It just reminded me so much of my childhood, that those kids that we dealt with at Johnson, I was that kid. Like
Really?
I literally was that kid. I was that
Yeah.
kid that came to class that cracked jokes, that sometimes wouldn't be quiet, or sometimes teachers didn't want to tolerate. So
Mm-hmm.
I was exactly that kid. Now I wasn't as disrespectful as some of those kids were, but I was that kid. And so that kind of going into that career field, going into those private schools, that showed me that, hey, they
Mm-hmm.
still think you that kid.
Wow. I
Yeah.
see. I didn't even know that because I mean, and looking at the opposite side, I was the total opposite. I mean, even though I was one who liked to crack jokes and stuff like that, I very rarely got in trouble in school. But even still, I was just like the quiet type. I'll sit back and observe everything. But with them, my stature is what kind of psyched the kids out. Okay, you look like one of us. Well, how you gonna tell us what to do? Because I can. And I'm like,
Right.
I mean, I got the license to prove it. I got the car, the house, or whatever to prove it. But they always saw me like I was one of them and try to talk to me as such. But there was a lot of times where I had to tell them, you know what? Yeah, I'm kind of the adult in this situation, so you're gonna have to, have to pick and choose. You gonna respect me today, or you just gonna act like we just friends today? Because I'm nobody's friend. That's what I would always tell them. I said, I'm not here to be none of y'all's friend, as we always say to kids. And then too, it was just the just seeing them and how they interacted with one another. Because I mean, a lot of them knew each other. A lot of them came from the same school,
Right.
and it was just something that I had to realize that, okay, I don't really do cliques, but yet when I saw these groups of kids coming in, it's like, okay, let me see who the ringleader is, who I
Exactly.
can, who I can just,
Right.
try to tug at their heart
Right.
first, because I realize that in a small setting like that, it's easy to pick out who's the dominant factor in that. So that's kind of one of my strategies that I would do there. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Yeah. But I was just like, you know what, I got to find something, just so they won't feel.
That was kind of my strategy as well, but it seemed like, especially there, the ones who were the ringleader were always the most unstable.
Mm-hmm.
They were, so that person, you couldn't really depend on that person to stand up all the time and
Mm-hmm.
to like help all the time, because that person was had a lot of things going on in their own life and were not very stable. Whereas me growing up, you know, I think one of the things that I kind of still regret to this day is that, like, I didn't know that I had so much power growing up, because people were trying to impress me, and so I
Mm-hmm.
would laugh at the jokes or things that they would do, and instead of me, saying, "Hey, bro, you shouldn't do that," or "Hey, cuz, don't do that," or whatever, I just kind of let them do it. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think about that now. So that's another reason why I became an educator, because like, now, I try to fight as hard as I can to help all kids. It doesn't matter race, creed, or color, background. I try to help them all. And, because I feel like I missed that opportunity to help my friends or, my brothers or relatives or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So just the opportunity to give back in a way, because I mean, even as it rolls into our family backgrounds, there's a lot of things that I'm trying to do for my daughter, that I didn't really get to experience, especially with the one-on-one time, especially with, just trying to make sure I stay up on, helping her with her classwork if she has any to bring home, and just the small things, that I was always wanting. And even with my nieces and nephews, it's just, I mean, any young person that I have an opportunity to be around, that's kind of what I try to do as well. Just try to give back in some shape, form, or fashion. And even at the school, like I said, even at the school that I'm at, it's like just trying to see where they are. A lot of times we don't see or take the time to try to see where the child is, so that we can, see how to help them along the way,
Exactly.
from where they are. So that's what I would try to ask them. Like, okay, so what's going on? How you doing today? How was your weekend and stuff? I mean, just even in asking simple questions, like I said, with the alternative kids, they would answer. And a lot of times they would answer a little bit more than what I thought. So it's just like, okay, now how I'm gonna work this
Right.
conversation, because I don't want to get too much into their business. But yet there were some who was just like, you know what, here's my business. And I mean, take it if you want it and see what you can do with it, or just hear me out.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's just like a hear me out.
Yeah.
So
Because I mean, a lot of them haven't had the opportunity to be heard. I mean, I know I felt like I wasn't heard as a kid, and that was by family, that was by teachers, that was by everyone, because everyone just automatically, just already had in their mind who I was.
mm-hmm,
They didn't even give me a chance, and they felt like because I was weaker in an area that was greater than their weakness, that I was lesser,
mm-hmm,
when they have weaknesses as well, but they just felt like since mine was, greater than their weaknesses, that, I was less of a person or less value. And, you
mm-hmm,
know, I never had a good, I mean, I had one good teacher, but for the most part, I never had a good teacher, never had great coaches.
mm-hmm,
No one was ever like me. And,
mm-hmm,
for me. And, that's another reason why I became, educator and teacher and stuff like that, to try to positively influence, young men and young women, because, a lot of these kids are walking around, broken, but even more than, there's a lot of adults walking around broken as well, because they didn't have the right teachers and coaches and people in place to help them. So
mm-hmm,
I just try to take, my ability now. It's tough sometimes, trying
mm-hmm,
to reach everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so necessary, and I feel like it's we'll never break the bank as far as like money wise, but you know I feel like what we do is very valuable.
Yeah. So I can ask you this then. Do you feel like mentors are important?
Yes.
Like to have like to take some young people under your wings? Because I remember when I was I want to say it's like my early 20s. I tried to do the whole big brother, big sister thing.
Mhm.
It kind of worked out for a few days or maybe a few weeks. And then I kind of dropped the ball because I was like so unstable myself to where it's like I didn't want to confuse nobody else. I didn't want to, drag anybody else into this world of me not knowing who I am, but trying to be somebody for
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, but what would you say about that? Like having mentors or,
Uh,
just being a mentor
Man,
to
I
someone.
think mentors are very important. You know, at my age, I still have a mentor. I still have people I talk to and look to for guidance because you know I think when we start to think that we know everything, then we really don't know anything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the kids definitely need positive people to speak into them, speak life into them because they don't always have that. Like I said earlier, it's a lot of broken adults, and you know some of their parents are broken, some of their family members are broken, and then they putting that same thing onto those kids, those curses or just bad energy onto those kids, and those kids are growing up and just having to be tough because I know in my family there was no hugs. There was no
Mm-hmm.
such thing as hugs. Like from 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 probably like first grade to 12th, I don't know what a hug was. We got a hug on graduation day, but we didn't do that. We didn't cry. We didn't do things like that because you know I have 7 brothers, so we were just always expected to be tough. You
Mm-hmm.
know, all the women in my family, men in my family, we don't cry, we don't do this, we don't do that. So I never had an opportunity to share that emotion, and you know that seeps over into adulthood. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we have to have those great mentors and great people in place to help us navigate through life, and we have to have healed people as mentors,
Mm-hmm.
people who know how to actually be a real mentor and not also put baggage onto you.
Yeah. I agree. Because I talk to quite a few people. Or, well, I wouldn't say quite a few people. I just have my certain people that I talk to, just to get out what's been going on in my mind. If I need that extra push or that extra advice,
Right.
because like you said, we don't know it all. And granted, I do not know it all, and that's why I'm one of the most inquisitive people now, because at first, like I said, I was so shy. I didn't talk to nobody. I just
Right.
felt like everybody was just not against me, but it was almost like, okay, I'm in this by myself. Like, don't nobody else go through this. Don't nobody else know what I'm going
Right.
through. So why even try to explain it? So I just went to the pen and pad. I would just write it out.
Yeah.
And I was actually introduced to that by one of my sister friends that I grew up with at church. And she was asking me one day, she was like, have you ever written in a diary or whatever? And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that was, and I didn't know what journaling was. It's pretty much the same thing, but it was just me just getting out those thoughts and those feelings that I was always bottling up, because me bottling all that up made me a sensitive person, to where I would kind of cry at the drop of a hat. If you say something wrong to me, I'm crying. If
Mm.
you did something wrong to me, I'm crying,
Yeah. Oh,
because it's like I can't express it verbally, so I'm just gonna go with the first emotion,
yeah.
and that was just sadness, just feeling like everybody or a lot of people were against me, which never really was the case for most people. But just to bring it into this whole area of what we're talking about with mentors is just something that I needed at that time,
Right.
and for her to be like a mentor figure, but yet a big sister figure. It's like, okay, I'm kind of getting two in one, because she's showing me, what it's like to be a young female,
Right.
and what it's like to actually go through these experiences, and to know that I'm not by myself. And, she would call and check up on me and things like that. And those are the things that I treasured the most, because it's like I felt like, and I hate to keep circling back to this whole moment, but there were a lot of times where my mother and I just didn't have that connection where we could sit down and talk about anything. So that's where it came about, to where either I would not hide it, either I would write it out, or either I would just, just try to wait to see who I can really talk it out with, that I would feel comfortable in getting that feedback that I needed.
Right.
And then sure enough, after a while, my mom and I, would kind of talk about certain things, but overall, it's just to have that mentor outside of family, because
Right.
there are some family members that you feel like they're judging you, or there's some
Right.
family members that you feel like they're carrying their own baggage, and it's like you don't want it to spill over into what you got going on, because I'm talking about one thing, but yeah, you're talking about a whole different thing, and you trying to make it all about you, or either you just confusing it, and that's not where I wanted to go with it. So that's why I had to kind of branch out and just say, you know what, I need some other people, that I can trust and talk things out with. So
Yeah, needed a village. And then family members, and I mean friends do it as well, but family members
mm,
always kind of like listen to respond instead of
mm,
actually listening. Sometimes I just want you to just hear what I got to say.
yeah.
And I think my family getting better at it because, because sometimes I just shut it all out. And so they'll
Mm,
call and they'll try to talk around things now. They try to like just how you doing and stuff like that. Cause I'm just not gonna even talk about it because it's hard to talk about things with them because, like I said, your family put their fears on you, knowingly,
mm,
unknowingly, and then you always feel like you kind of like judge, man. Like,
mm,
and nobody wants to necessarily go through that process. I know this is kind of off topic, but even when it comes to like um, relationships or something like that. And say, for instance, if you broke up with someone and then you want to kind of like go back and talk to that person, you don't even want to tell your family because, blah, 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 blah. But hey, then you used to take Uncle Charlie back all the time when we know what Uncle Charlie did, or then you used to do XYZ with such and such, such and such. So, but oh, when it comes to me though, oh, it's a problem. I don't like her,
right,
or but such
right,
and such did you like that, but you looked at me and said, mind your business. Cool.
right. Or
So,
let it be another sibling or whatever. That's the thing
right,
I had going on, like with my brothers and stuff. It's like there were certain things I felt like they could do that I just could not do,
right,
especially when it came to relationships. Like whoever you're talking to, oh, but you got to go through a whole list of who I'm talking to. No, you didn't do that with them. So it's like yeah, I see what you mean too with that. And like you said, with how they bring other people in, and how we just deal with the brokenness of other people. I just didn't want that, and that's why I always kind of kept my quote unquote relationships private.
you talked about your daughter and like talk more about that dynamic and
Mhm.
um, how has that changed your life being a mother?
Wow, being a mother. So I had her in 2012,
Mhm.
and at that time, I was still subbing. I was subbing for quite a while. I believe I started in 2010, and I didn't stop until, what was it, 2015? I think I ended up at Johnson. So that was a good amount of time. But still, to have a child of my own was just like first of all, it was mind blowing, because I honestly, I wasn't ready yet to have a child, but yet due to the circumstances, I went ahead, because I was married first. And in the midst of that, that's when she came about, and that's when things just kind of fell uh, on its end, to where it ended up in a divorce. So I ended up back here, ended up in Nashville. So just in that time, it was still, like I said, me trying to find myself and trying to raise this little lady. Like I didn't really know how to do it, honestly.
Right.
And luckily, I ended back at my mom's house, to where I got, some help here and there on just how to raise her, just how
Right.
to raise a daughter, period.
Right.
And that helped me to not only find the missing pieces that I was trying to find in myself, but it helped me to, just give it the healing parts of me
Right.
from what I could to her, and still to this day, because I find myself noticing things in her that I saw mostly in myself
Mm.
during that time frame.
Right.
For example, like the sensitivity. Like I said, I was a very strong sensitive person, and I still am, but it's not at a high point, as it was. Like I said before, like say something wrong to me, I'm crying. Do something wrong, I will shed tears.
Right.
And it took me a while to just see that, okay, I have to try to change it for her, because like we always notice with young people, they see everything. And if they don't, and if they're not just seeing it, then they're also going to try to mimic it. And sometimes it's still by nature. So for me to try to tackle that in her, I have to tackle it in myself first. So that's where I was trying to see, okay, what was going on with me to cause me to have this, and how do I stop it from, continuing on with her. So there were some times where I just sat down and talked to her. Whether
Right.
I sat down on the floor, whether I got I couldn't say it, eye to eye level with her. It's just me letting her know that, you know what, I'm humbling myself enough to say that, you know what, either I'm wrong, or either I don't know it, or either we're going to get through this together.
Right.
Or just bearing with me, the patience too. It just taught me to have, I was a I've been a patient person, but it has taught me more patience,
Exactly.
because there's some things that she doesn't get right away. She may be a fast learner in certain areas, especially with her academics, but in other areas, dealing with herself as a person, it's just the patience. It's not really there. And I found myself getting more impatient while I was in that situation.
Right.
So I had to get back to that part where I was feeling like myself again.
Mm.
And in me trying to feel like myself again, it caused me to spend more time with her instead of away from her, like separately, so that I can see what it is that I wasn't catching on to before. So just being a mother overall thus far, is definitely, it's always a learning experience,
Right.
but it's always that like you said, part of that accomplishing thing too, because it's like I did, to me, I feel like I did something right, in the midst of that whole janky relationship, or whatever you want to call it. But I feel like I did something right. I always wanted to have a child and stuff. Say what?
So you got a little person out of it.
Got a little person on me, man. And when I say that she does a lot of things that I do, is that's even more. That's letting me know that that's the accomplishing part. That I didn't instill in her the negativity that I felt was trying to be instilled in me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Yeah.
helps.
And I mean, I see that as well with being a father. Like my son, he is as intellectual as I am. He is as
Uh-huh.
smart as a tack, and he observes everything, just like me. I even have to come correct with certain
Mm,
things because he will pick out every single thing until he gets the truth.
mm,
And that is exactly how I am. And he's
mm-hmm,
like that because I mean, he asked me for a book on taxes. He's 16. He,
mm,
because he wanted to understand his taxes and credit.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, he's brilliant. And my daughter, she is the other side of me. She is
Okay.
my
Okay.
attitude I had, and that outgoingness and that smart alecky. She's gonna say what she
Mm,
gotta say, no matter how you want to hear it. She gonna say it. And like I said, they're total opposite. He's older, she's younger, and she is talking, and even he be sitting there like, man, I don't want to hear that. Like,
right.
I ain't trying to hear her today. Like, what she talking
Right.
about? And
Right.
it's two different sides of me that is
Mm,
going on, and it is a thing to see, but I did notice her. You know, her and I brought him and her down here for a week. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I brought my niece and nephew, you know, two of my niece and nephews who are the same age as them as well, so that they could have, you know, other people to talk to when I was working.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I noticed a bunch of times my daughter staring at me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she would just be staring at me. And I'd be like, what you looking at? And she's like, nothing. And I just, you know, kind of dive into it a little bit. I was like, she was just happy. You know, she
Mm-hmm.
was looking at her dad, you know, and, you know, it just, everything that I do, you know, I know she's going to try to eventually one day date a man like her dad.
Oh.
So I have to try to be the man that I want to see my daughter with because, you know, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
bless you if you come in this place and you don't be that person that I need you to be because you know I
Yeah.
still got hands. OG still got hands.
Yes.
So
Talk about that blessing. No, it's
no,
good.
you're gonna be blessed in more ways than one. You know, blessed
Yes.
with the hands, or you can be blessed with my legally owned firearms. You know,
Yes.
legally owned. You know, by the way, you
Yes.
know I'm a
Right.
legally law-abiding citizen and gun toter. So you
Yeah.
know
There you go.
you can get blessed. Uh,
Yes.
you know, and your family members can get blessed too as well. So hey,
Yes.
just let you know.
Yes.
So you mess with
Everybody's getting blessed.
everybody can get a blessing. Everybody get a blessing. You get a bullet, but it's a blessing attached to it.
Right, right, right.
Right.
What's say name it and claim it? You better name it.
Exactly. We gonna claim it.
That's
You
it.
know, so
Right,
we're
right,
gonna make sure
right.
everybody feels good.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
make it like my boys on the Wayans Brothers. Make it hot.
I remember that.
Right. You're gonna make it
Yes,
hot.
sir. Yes,
So
sir. That's good. Parenthood, man. Who knew? Who would have known? Yeah, like I mean, I didn't know you back then to know that to know if being a dad was something you ever wanted to do, you know? Um so because I mean I know a lot of people they're just like, oh, I just so happen to be here, you know, not happen to be here, but you know.
man, I used to want to have because I mean, you know, everywhere I stayed at, I didn't get my own bed until college. So
Hmm.
everywhere I stayed at, it was always huge. I mean, you know, when I stayed with my mom, it was my cousins were there. So we had like 12 people in a 3 bedroom. Then
Hmm.
when I stayed with my grandmother, it was like 9 of us in a 2 bedroom. So I always had this big family. And you know, growing up, I used to watch the Cosby's, Martin, and just different shows like that. And I always wanted that type of dynamic.
Hmm.
I used to want like 11 kids. I was like, man, I'm gonna get 11. I'm gonna have a
Really,
football team. And
really.
you know, sometimes, and I know this is again off topic. You know, sometimes, and I talk to my son about it. Sometimes, you know, and he knows. I was like, man, I kind of feel bad sometimes because, you know, I didn't get to grow up in the house with him. I didn't get to grow up in
Hmm.
the house with my daughter, and you know, that's something I never wanted my kids to experience, and for them to have to experience that, you know, I know as much as I'm there and I'm around and stuff like that, and I'm a very private person, so I never really talk about them too much to people that I don't consider family. But you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I never wanted that for them, and so
Hmm.
you know, it just I feel like it's not cool some days, but I
Hmm.
know they're happy. They're cool. They doing a whole lot better than pops was doing when I was in high school or things like that. But you know, sometimes I feel bad for it. You know, a lot
Hmm.
of times than not. So
Yeah, and that's what got me to that's what got me to being more open to my daughter just even asking questions because at one point I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait till she gets older or
right,
either I'll just not tell her this part or that part or whatever. But as it went along, it's just like if she's gonna ask the questions which she has been asking, then I'm more than willing to just be open and say, you know what, this is what happened, this is why I am where I am and why your dad is where he is. And
right,
um it's just coming to that point to where it's like letting bygones be bygones, but yet at the same exact time I am not one to go back to anything that I left from And I am one to just basically try to steer her in a better direction from what she was brought up in.
Right.
Because even though I know she has her questions or wonders
Right.
as to, why things are not the way that they were, um, I just I just don't want to hide it from her,
Exactly.
because like we keep saying, it's a different topic, but my story is almost similar to hers.
Right.
Um, outside of the whole marriage part, which never happened between my parents, but um, that's just in a nutshell, what I am trying to learn, just in being more open instead of like, no, you don't need to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to end that cycle. Trying to end that cycle.
Yes.
You definitely got
Got
to end
to.
that cycle. I feel like, yeah, I'm trying to end the same thing with mine, and break generational curses and things like that. And it's very important, because when I think about just our family dynamic, I may act like a great 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 grandfather that I've never met in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things are passed down, and so I'm trying to make sure that for mine, that I go ahead and just, if it's negative, we breaking that now, because I don't want you to have to see or go through the same things that I've had to experience, because it hasn't been fun.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes life's greatest teacher is through our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to move on from them. But some people are plagued by them. Some people are continue to make the same decisions and choices 10, 15, 30 years in a
Mm-hmm.
row. And I'm definitely not trying to make that. And, I definitely try to move the way that I want to move, especially when it comes to my son and daughter, because, I got both. And so I try to be the man that I want my daughter to date. I try to be the man that I want my son to model after. So,
Mm-hmm.
try to do my best with that aspect. But yeah, I mean, I still feel like we're getting off topic, because we done covered a lot just in that small.
Yeah, no, but yeah, but I guess you could say that this is just the intro
Right.
to some of the things that we'll be, trying to hit on first thing, if not along the way or down the list. But I will say that I know you keep mentioning the whole generational curses, and that's been one of the things that I model my business after. I've had it since, I want to say, since 2002 or 2003 or whatever. That's been the name of my business, Generational Curse Breakers. And it has been something that I strive to do um, pretty much daily. But just overall, thus far, it's just in my whole situation, whether it be from childhood, whether it be from relationships, finances, whatever, it's just breaking that curse.
Right.
Because I believe that there's somewhat of a curse, whether great or small, tied to a lot of areas in my life and in everybody else's life, especially when it comes to the families. Something that, how we handle our spending may be the same as how our parents did their spending. It's just different things, parenting, it can be a curse tied into that, um, even in how we deal with people.
Right.
It's a variety of things,
Everything. So,
and like we're mainly putting for this podcast, um is to just do that, just talking about the things that a lot of people don't talk about, because I believe that that's part of healing. I mean, if we talk about what the situation is and then just kind of dissect it, and I think that's what we just did. We just kind of touched on it a little bit,
yeah.
but as we talk about it, we'll dissect it. We'll try to be a little bit more open, peel off some more layers. Um, because that's kind of what I'm doing with my thing, finding myself remedy. It's just trying to ask those questions that not many people are asking.
Exactly.
Um, and just to see where people are, just to also give that assurance that, okay, again, you're not going through this by yourself. And even if you do feel like that, it's like, okay, here's how they got through that one, and here's how you can kind of pull from what they went through or how they got through it, just so you can, compare and just find your own way,
Yeah.
finding your self remedy. That's what I've been having to do.
Facts. Yeah, and it's so many different ways that you can break those generational curses and things like that. And I don't know. I just felt like saying this as well. Like, normalize telling your family members no. Normalize that. That's one thing that we definitely got to normalize, especially in the Black culture. Hey, I love you, but I can't. That's one thing that definitely has to be said more of. And it's not that, we don't want to help you or that we dislike you or anything, but those things have to be normalized, and people have to respect those boundaries. And I think, especially the older generation in our family, they don't understand when we say no because, they had something kind of different during their time. And I understand that was your time. And I'm not saying it's our time now, but we kind of live in our own lives in a way. So we definitely have to normalize that as well. And this is a safe place for everyone to heal, everyone to kind of learn something, everyone to kind of take it back to their tribe, their family, their relationships or whatever, and just move forward in a positive light, in a positive way, because that's the most important thing. I think too many times we look back. Too many times we go into things and just automatically think negative, or automatically think that it's going to go wrong or whatever it may be. But it's time to kind of step over that puddle, step over that situation, or move past that hurt, because it's okay to hurt. It's okay to be, it's okay. It's not okay to be hurt, but it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to let your emotions out, but it's not okay to be still living in hurt 10 years later, 5 years later, 3 years later. You kind of gonna have to move on because, life doesn't stop for anyone. So
You said it. You said it. And it's really no age limit on what we're gonna do. I don't think, because we try to tackle. If the key word ain't been generation this whole time, then it's just to let everybody know that we're not really putting no age restriction. I mean, because we want everyone to be whole.
exactly.
We want everyone to gather some sense of their well-being and just operate in that mental health, if nothing else. And it's a lot more that we want to talk about and want to share, whether it be from our experiences, whether it be from what we observe on a daily or whatever the case is. We just want to make this an open platform, for everybody to come here, see whatever you got to do,
Right.
just so you can be in tune to not feeling like you're by yourself, basically.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Whatever y'all want to hear, the comments are open. Go down to that little bottom where that little bubble is. Put your comments in. Whatever you want to hear about, whatever you want to talk about. We're definitely here for it. Any suggestions or anything like that. Negative people, man, find somewhere else to go. Just let you know.
I don't know. In a way, it's like a challenge, because it's like because sometimes they need to be addressed, but then you don't want to shed much light to them. I feel what you're saying. You don't want to shed light on them.
You don't want to give the negative people too much light. I've been blessed in my life now. I ain't gotta bless you with hands unless you mess with my daughter. So,
yeah, that's true.
I ain't gotta bless you with hands.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, whatever you feel, drop it in the comments.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Fly, anything else, sir?
No, Memphis. All day, every day.
Memphis?
Hey,
Yes, sir.
and the marathon continues. That's about it. That's about all I got.
Right. Well, I'm a born and raised somewhat country girl. I don't really claim the countryside, but Nashville was where I resided. But I've moved on to a upper city, so
Upper East
Sumner County is where Sumner County is where I'm
at. Upper East Side with the Jefferson.
There you go. There you go. Yes,
All
sir.
right. No
But it's
flies on.
all good. All right, no fly zone, Tianna, ADiGE, and fly. Y'all stay tuned.